Yes, we've got week 9 in the NFL, but also we have got the trade deadline just 5 days away. It is coming up next Tuesday, November 4th. Taking a look at the NFC playoff picture where things stand right now. Obviously, look, things could be a lot different by the time the season ends. But when it comes to the trade deadline, we are going to go through all of these contenders and talk about one trade each of those teams needs to make. For more on that, we have two of our experts here, Mike Renner, JP Acosta. So let's start, Mike, with you. Top contenders in the NFC, one trade every team needs to make. The Packers. Go to you, Mike. Get us started.
Well, I'll say this. They kind of made their trade already. Their preseason trade for Micah Parsons was their all-in moment, but they could go just a little bit more. And I think if you're looking for areas where I would go a little bit more, it's the defensive tackle position where I think Shelby Harris of the Cleveland Browns would be a perfect match for what they need. Basically a 2-down run defender. When you look at what the Packers have on their interior, they basically have a 3-man rotation where the heaviest guy is 304 pounds. And so they kind of have to scheme around the fact that they don't have beef. They don't have a plugger. Shelby Harris can be that for this team. And basically, if they get an injury, if one of those 3 guys gets hurt, it means 6th-round rookie or UDFA Warren Brinson or Nazir Stackhouse come in. This gives you a veteran presence instead of one of those 2 guys should injury strike the way it did with Devontae Wyatt earlier this season.
Well, like you said, congrats on the Micah Parsons trade. You guys got things done early. Let's go to the defending Super Bowl champs, the Eagles. JP, who do they need to make a trade for?
You can never have too much pass rush, so I'm going to say they need to trade for Malcolm Kuntz, edge rusher from the Las Vegas Raiders. I know they brought back Brandon Graham. Nolan Smith is coming off IR soon, but you can never have too many guys who bring juice off the edge. The Eagles have still needed some more boost on the defensive side of the ball, and Malcolm Kuntz is going in his final year of a contract. He brings speed, he brings athleticism off the edge, and it really helps as a complementary pass rusher to the guys like Jalen Carter on the interior who sort of push the pocket, and Malcolm Kuntz can be the edge guy that they need to fill guys, to funnel guys up into Carter, and really sort of boost that pass rush to what it was last year.
Let's go to the NFC South and go to the Bucs. Look, they're still at the top of this division, and it feels like we were talking about this team so much a couple weeks ago, and things have just quieted down around them. Not that anything's going wrong, Mike, but if the Bucs were to make a trade, who would you like to see them get?
I'd look along the offensive line where injuries have struck there, and they've been pretty thin. And I'd go for Wyatt Teller of the Cleveland Browns, a former Pro Bowler who's taking a little bit of a step back now on the wrong side of 30 and going into free agency this offseason, so may not be in the Browns' long-term plans. Because of that, you could probably get him fairly cheap. I imagine somewhere on day 3 is all it would take in terms of picks to get him. And it would be a great replacement for Cody Mauch at right guard, who isn't coming back this season. You're going to get Luke Gedeke back at right tackle, but you're not going to get Mauch back at guard. If you really have ideas of winning a Super Bowl this season, it needs to come with that offensive line first. You got to protect Baker, got to give him time. Wyatt Teller's the guy that can do that.
Baker Mayfield's one of my favorite people on the planet. And the NFC West, arguably the most difficult division, JP. You have 3 teams all sitting there with 5 wins. The Seahawks, if they want to make some separation, who do they need to get?
I think they need to go trade for linebacker Pete Werner from the New Orleans Saints. I know everybody's looking at the wide receiver room and saying Seattle needs to bring another guy in to help Jackson Smith and Jigba, but I do think they like the guys in Torrey Horton. I think they like Cooper Kupp. But on the other side of the ball, Drake Thomas, Tyrese Knight, both are younger linebackers that haven't really panned out in Mike McDonald's defense. They don't really have the range or the instincts and coverage that Pete Werner has. So I think if you add Werner, you have 2 guys in Ernest Jones and Werner who are incredibly smart, instinctive. They fill gaps in the run game, and they elevate you as a pass defense. And I think that's really going to help this Seahawks defense that's already incredibly very good and turn it into one of the best units in the NFL. So I think adding a guy like Pete Werner, especially to help that linebacker core, and trading for linebackers when you are a Super Bowl needy team, you're ready to go win the Super Bowl right now, I think it makes a lot of sense for a guy like Werner, for the Seahawks, to go and elevate their roster to Super Bowl worthy.
A team that believes they can get to the Super Bowl, the Lions. Mike, you're looking at a player, speaking of defense, JP, and everybody wants to know, is this guy going to be traded? So I kind of answer why you like him with the Lions, but also, do you think he actually gets moved?
Yeah, I do think Trey Hendrickson ultimately gets traded because I think the Bengals will have to look in the mirror after this weekend and admit they're not really in playoff contention. And Trey Hendrickson is the guy that will be the most in demand. You could probably fetch a day 2 pick from him. And with where they're at, that makes more sense than holding on for dear life and getting whatever compensatory pick you get when he walks in free agency this offseason. So for the Detroit Lions, it's time to push the chips to the edge of the table. You know, you've been kind of kicking around the can the last 2 years in the ballpark. This is a move that immediately jumps you to the front of the line, similar to what the Packers did in the preseason with Micah Parsons. Hendrickson's had over 70 pressures each of the last 4 seasons. Yes, he's a little banged up right now with a hip injury, but when he's been on the football field, he's still been that same guy. It would be reminiscent of the move the Rams made when they gave up a second rounder for Von Miller and then ultimately won the Super Bowl later that year. It's the kind of move that sometimes you got to make, even if you don't want to give up the draft picks. Sometimes you got to make it to get over the hump in a loaded NFC.
I think this is a move that truly everybody in the NFL has been making for the last few years. But it feels like Mike said, this is the year to make it happen. This is the year to go and do it. If you are Detroit, you need another boost in the pass rush department. Aiden Hutchinson is playing fantastic football, but you really need a number 2 to help relieve some of the stress on an injured secondary, on an injured back 7. And I think Trey Hendrickson is such a good complement to what Aiden Hutchinson brings. He brings power. He brings a lot of technique. And I think that this is the move for the Lions if they want to go and win the Super Bowl. Adding a guy like Hendrickson, even though they just paid Aiden Hutchinson, I think the money's going to work out well, especially going long term. But if you want to go win a Super Bowl right now, which the Lions have the roster and the talent to do that, adding Aiden Hutchinson is a no-brainer move.
Yeah, adding to Aiden Hutchinson. Look, I think it's so funny, like with the trade deadline, like none of us know, right? Like some people are out there saying, oh, the Lions aren't going to make a trade for him because they have Aiden Hutchinson and just, I mean, he could be anywhere. JP, what about the Rams? Who would you like to see?
So I know they just added Roger McCreary, but I am going to say they should add Cam Taylor-Britt, cornerback from the Bengals. I think that we talked about Cincinnati knowing that they are out of it. After this week, it might be over for the Bengals. Joe Burrow's probably not going to come back this season. But Cam Taylor-Britt is a guy who's sort of been miscast in this defense. He's more of a zone corner. He's incredibly athletic and just needs a confidence boost, but he can play on the outside and win on the outside. The Rams secondary, they have a lot of interesting nickel corners. Now they have McCreary. Quentin Lake is playing the best football of his career. While on the outside, they have Jacoby Durant and Akello Witherspoon, who is still coming off a broken clavicle. If you add Cam Taylor-Britt to that room, I think you add a lot of athleticism. I think you add the potential for ball skills and production, and you just add more size and talent to a room that's needed it for the last couple of years. So I think for the Rams, you're looking at an offense that's ready to go win the Super Bowl and a pass rush that's ready to go win the Super Bowl. I say go add another cornerback and Cam Taylor-Britt on the outside and go see what you can do in the playoffs.
Mike, let's go to the 49ers. Staying in that division there, they already have started to make a couple moves. What else would you like to see for what the team or what people have called the hospital 49ers, if you will?
Yeah, they've already made a move for an edge in Keon White from the Patriots. But to me, he's really going to be more of an interior player for them. That's where he was at his best. That's why the Patriots got rid of him, is because he really couldn't play edge for them. So I think more targeting a true edge rusher in Malcolm Koonce. I'm going to steal it from JP, who wanted him to go to the Eagles. I like it to the 49ers better because I think he can be more of an every down player for them than he would be for the Eagles, where he'd be more of a situational pass rusher. This guy had 52 pressures his last healthy season in 2023, tore his ACL prior to 2024, and still kind of working his way back from that. You've seen him improve week over week, though, and could have his best football be ahead of him. And if you're the Las Vegas Raiders, you have Tyree Wilson there, who you drafted top 10. You have Max Crosby. That edge duo isn't going anywhere. Probably not going to sign Malcolm Koonce long term. Get whatever you can get back for him.
Let's go to the Bears. JP, when I walked into work today, I was looking at the Bears. I said, somebody make me excited about this team, because it feels like they get close and then they just kind of pull back. And it's been like that for them. Who would you like to see them acquire?
I would like to see them go after New York Jets edge Jermaine Johnson. And I think it's because the Bears pass rush has been the biggest issue for this team, even beyond some of the inconsistencies of the offense, even without the secondary being healthy. This pass rush, this defensive line is what's been poured into for the last few years for Ryan Poles, and it just hasn't worked out yet. Adding a guy like Jermaine Johnson, he fits the Dennis Allen defensive lineman mold. Big, long, strong, plays mean. I think he has a lot of pass rush upside. He has more pass rush upside than anybody not named Montez Sweat already on the Bears roster. And I think he just adds to a Chicago Bears defensive line unit, a pass rush unit that's near the bottom of the NFL in pressure rate. They don't blitz a lot in that defensive scheme. So you're just wondering if they can add another pass rusher just to sort of get them over the hump. I think Jermaine Johnson can be that guy. I think he brings a lot of power. I think he brings a lot of force to the defensive line. And I think he'll take a lot of eyes off of Montez Sweat.
Okay, so going through this, we're looking at NFC potential contenders, I should say, and we're asking you guys for a potential trade. And Mike, we gave you the Panthers, and you came up with nothing. Please explain why that is.
Because they don't need to make a move for anyone. This is not your year if you're the Carolina Panthers. You have to be happy as heck to be 4-4. But if anything, I'm selling, not buying if I'm the Carolina Panthers, because they travel to Green Bay this weekend. They're double-digit dogs on the road. They're likely going to lose that game. And if they do drop to 4-5, they're probably 2 games back from the last wild card spot. That's not one piece via trade to overcome. It's going to be very difficult for them to compete for the division, even if they do add to this roster. So I think this is a time to be sellers. It wouldn't even surprise me if they moved on from someone like Rico Dowdle, their star running back, because he's in the last year of his deal. You have Chuba Hubbard signed for the next 3 years, and you have Jonathan Brooks, the second rounder. Super crowded running back room. Get what you can for the guy whose value is at his highest right now, and just try to build for a better team in the future. This ain't your year, Carolina. Sorry.
Producer James is a Panthers fan. Producer James, how do you feel about this? Not great. He just said not great. But, I mean, when are you ever really feeling good about the Panthers right now? For a while. No offense, Panthers fans. Look, I love you. One more team we got to talk about. JP Acosta, you know, everybody's going to be paying attention to what you say here. I don't know, like Mike said, you know, if they should be looking for people. But the Cowboys sitting at 3-4 behind the Eagles, who are at 6-2. Do the Cowboys make a move for someone? If so, who?
If Jerry Jones is still the GM of this team, the acting GM, they're going to make a move at the deadline. I think the Cowboys think they are so close, or much closer to the playoffs than they actually are defensively. So the guy I think they're going to go after is Quincy Williams, linebacker from the New York Jets. This linebacker room, without DeMarvion Overshawn, who's still coming back from major knee injury, has been awful this season. And I think they just need a guy with experience, with instincts to fill gaps correctly, and have some sort of range in pass coverage. I think Quincy Williams brings a lot of energy. He brings a lot of aggression moving forward. And I think he's just a much better player than the guys they have on the roster outside of Overshawn. If you pair those two together, they can be incredibly athletic and give them some juice at the second level that they don't really have. I know they're looking at defensive linemen, some more pass rush help, which, I mean, they traded away a guy that could have been the pass rush help for them this season. But I think going and adding Quincy Williams would be a nice little, we'll see what we can do this year and then figure it out later.
I love it. No notes. I'm not even going to say anything. JP, Mike Renner, we appreciate it. Have a great rest of the day. Good work there going through potential trades for the NFC contenders, if you do consider them contenders. Taking a look at the odds to win the NFC Championship, the Lions right now still sitting on top at plus 340, followed by the Packers, the Eagles, the Rams, and then the Seahawks.